Uh, all right. Hello, everybody. Hey,
Hello.
I've got my co-hosts, LaDonna Sherwood and Francis Thompson. Hello, ladies. My two co-hosts for tonight.
We have a doorbell that's barking dogs now.
God, if there ain't one thing that's got. But anyway, don't don't hide the dogs. We're here again. We've got a great guest tonight, and our guest tonight would be Miss Kimberly Rusley of the KBMT Fox News anchor, and we're going to bring on a few. But I just want to visit my co-host. And how has your week been? How's things going?
Mine is going awesome. I just did an audition for Steel
Somebody's mic is popping.
Magnolias. That must be Francis's.
That's Francis' mic popping. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Now, tell me about your week.
I did an audition for Steel Magnolias, and it's going to be in Nederland after the first of the year. So we'll get together and I'll explain all of that to you guys. I'm looking forward to having some events with the NAACP, and I'm also looking forward to having some holiday parties. I'm coming up on my 14-year anniversary of being in business, so I'm excited about that. And I mean, it's just all in all been a good week. We've been fundraising with the kids. You know me, I'm in the community everywhere: baseball, volleyball, NAACP, the Good Trouble Pact.
Yeah.
And just excited about what's going on in the community and how the tides are shifting since the election, baby. People are ready to work, and I'm ready for them to get it going.
Really? We're ready to crank it back up again, right?
We're ready.
All right, then that's what I want to hear. I like that. So let's go back here and let's visit with our other co-host, Francis Thompson. Francis, since you've been with us a couple of times on the show, and tell us a little bit about yourself to let the viewers know, my co-host. I like them to know what kind of business you in.
Okay, I'm a loan officer.
You wasn't expecting that, were you? You wasn't expecting that tonight, did you?
No, I wasn't. But you know what? I have to stay ready for anything during this podcast, so I stay on ready. Okay.
Yes,
Always
right.
good to be here. And thanks again, you guys, for having me. And I'm a loan officer. I've been a loan officer for about 3 years. By way of the Chamber of Commerce, which is a nonprofit. I worked there for about 4 years, which that basically ignited a love for me and my community. So I went into lending after about 4 years, 3 years now in lending, and I'm still heavily engaged in the community. You know, once you get a passion for community, it kind of like it either hooks you in or it doesn't. So I keep finding my way back in different ways. Southeast Texas Young Democrats, Southeast Texas Young Professionals, Jack and Jill. Oh my God, there's a countless amount of organizations that I participate in. I cannot name them all. We will be here all day long. But I am very blessed to be here and very passionate about my community. So thanks again for having me and ask me back anytime.
Yes, and LaDonna, I think I never asked you to let the viewers know.
I was just fixing to say, you would never ask me what I do for a living.
Well, tell us what you do for a living. So
look, I've been on for months now.
I'm waiting.
I'm not going to tell you. We're gonna pick another. Let me say this. Look, what I do is medical transportation.
Yes.
So I work directly with Medicare and Medicaid, and I'm super proud about that because what we provide people with is access to health care and access to services that they may not otherwise get for the elderly and the indigent. We go into the homes, we pick them up, we take them to appointments, and we bring them back home. And for a lot of people, we're the only family that they see. We're the only family. We're their only outlet into the regular world. And that has been an eventful journey. And like I said, I've been in business since 2006. Baby, we have shut down the haters and the naysayers and the people that said we wasn't gonna make it. Here we go, 14 years later in a male-dominated industry, and I'm one of the only female providers in South Texas, and I've been doing it to the best of my ability. We are expanding our territory. I am the primary provider for this area. I cover Bridge City, Orange, Jasper, Koontz, Silsbee, Nederland, all the way. We go all the way to Pasadena, League City, LaPorte, the Woodlands, Houston, Galveston. I'm super excited this month because I normally throw a big party in December, but because of COVID, I'm really not going to get to do that. So I'm kind of just celebrating by myself all month at our 14-year anniversary. I'm super excited. Now, not to mention, I also own an insurance agency. I do that as well, but that's not my baby. My baby is L&L.
Well, let me share with you, LaDonna. I used to dispatch for MTN Medical Transportation. And
shut up!
Yes, I did. And let me tell you, you are exactly right. That is a service that is desperately needed for folks. And in a way, it is community service in a sense. I know that's your business and you make a profit, but I'm telling you, if it wasn't for you being or making yourself available and providing that service, there will be a lot of people that did not or could not get back and forth to the doctor. So trust and know that I know the importance of it, of what you do. And I appreciate your service and your cancer to even deal.
Yes.
It can provide a challenge, especially with COVID and everything. And you guys still staying strong, still looking out for the people in the community and getting them back and forth to the doctor. So,
and you know what? A lot of people, we don't get, like when they had that health scare in Port Arthur, I'm just going to say people don't look at us as essential workers, but we are.
Oh, yeah.
Just want to add that on.
Well, let's bring our guests on him. And this is not your show. Y'all two not my special guest tonight.
But that's okay. We got all the love for the special guest. Bring her on. We're gonna grill her too. Bring her on.
We've got a special guest tonight, and before we go into that and bring her on, don't forget COVID-19 is still in effect, and it's surging right now. And people, be safe, wear your mask, and stay. Because when we don't control this, get this in control, we won't have a Merry Christmas. It's going to be an unmerry Christmas. So make sure, unless we change our Thanksgiving ways and plans, we are going to have an very unmerry Christmas. So people, let's be aware of that there is a virus, a COVID-19 virus, and it's still out there, and it's surging, and it's much stronger. So please, and it's back, and it's stronger than it was last. This is a third surge, and this is a huge one. Please stay safe. Let's bring our guest, this beautiful Miss Kimberly Rusley from Kbtv Fox 4 News. Hello, love. How are you?
Hey,
all right.
I'm doing wonderful on
Let's
this.
bring you over here. We bring you over here and put you on the big stage here. Let's see here.
Thanks.
There we go.
All right.
Okay.
He's working his equipment, girl. You got to excuse him.
Hey, I'm the host, the producer, the production. I do it all.
The technician, the engineer, all of that.
Yeah. I'm at the age now that I need help. I need some young help to help me around here. Kimberly, thank you for coming, and thank you for coming on our show. And we will really appreciate you here tonight. And along my co-host, LaDonna Sherwood, and the top of the screen corner is Francis Thompson. Francis has been a guest with us on some couple of shows, and I thought I'd bring two hosts here to help me do all the talking.
Well, wonderful. So, I'm glad to be here. I just wanted to say that to y'all. Thank you for inviting me and having me.
Yes. So tonight it's a special night, and what I want to ask you is, we see you on television, on the news, on channel, on Kbtv, Fox 4. So tell the viewers where you're actually really from. You're not from this area, right?
So no, I'm not from Southeast Texas. If you all know where Shreveport, Louisiana is, at the top part of Louisiana, the top of the people call it. I am from Bossier City, Louisiana, which is the sister city. So I am from Bossier City, Louisiana, in that metro area of Shreveport, Bossier.
Yeah, over there at the casino area up
I was
north.
just going to say, they have a great
yes,
Margaritaville,
Yeah.
honey.
that is casino capital. It is. People love Shreveport, Bossier for that.
And it's really nice. Have you been up there, Donna?
I was just fixing to say, you keep hearing me say Margaritaville, baby. I was over there at Margaritaville talking about it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yes, that's it.
And they have another casino. I think it's the Black Jack or Black Diamond or something. And
Diamond Jacks. And actually, that's in Bossier City, but actually it closed. What? And so they filed bankruptcy. Yeah.
Shut up. And so I was there not too long ago because, again, you can't miss me on a casino, honey. And so we went to that casino, and they had great crabs and lobster I had there.
Oh, yeah.
And you know where else I went where they had the $1 Million Wall? That's the one that's on the riverboat.
So that is in Horseshoe. Horseshoe Casino. Yes.
That's it.
They have the $1 Million Wall.
Babe, I took a picture in front of the $1 Million Wall. And you know what? I consider myself to be international, and I'm like a world traveler. So even the little towns and cities, I try to make my way there and at least have a little bit of the food or get in the water. We went on a riverboat tour. There's a riverboat too.
So here's the interesting thing about Shreveport, Bossier. A majority of those casinos, they are on actual river boats because of the state law in Louisiana. I believe that Margaritaville is the only one that was allowed to operate on land there.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
I'm just gonna say I enjoyed myself thoroughly in your hometown, honey. Let me tell you.
Good. I'm glad you had a good time.
I didn't know.
So tell us a little bit about your career and what brought you here. How did you transition from there to here?
Okay, so there was a stop in between, and as I'm sure many people realize, and some may not realize, you know, when you're a journalist and you start out in television news, you are going to come across a lot of cities and a lot of travels doing what you do. Because when we get in the business, we sign contracts for positions. And, you know, you may sign something that's 2 or 3 years long, and then there's another position in another city that really stands out to you and sticks out. So 2-3 years, you're bouncing to another city. And if you keep in mind that, you know, people are ambitious, people have goals, people have places that they want to go and they want to be. So just keep in mind those contracts and those ambitions. That means 2 to 3 years, you're moving. Thankfully for me, I was blessed early on in my career. I was able to start out my career in my hometown area. I started out in Shreveport, Louisiana, and I started at the CBS affiliate there, working behind the scenes. And I stayed in Shreveport, Bossier, probably until 2012, well, maybe 2015, maybe. Then I moved to Little Rock. And so I worked in Little Rock for a few years. And then I came here to Beaumont, to Southeast Texas.
Well, so, you know, not to cut you off, Kimberly, but I was reading your bio just a little bit on Kbtv, and I saw that you started your collegiate career. Is it what was it, 2008 at LSU?
In 2006. Ooh, it seems so long ago. I had to think about the years. I attended LSU Shreveport. Yes.
Okay, and I was reading further, and it stated that you were working at a bank, and you got a phone call. And was that your first time that you started in communications, or tell us a little bit about that in college? Because I'm telling you, I'm a communications major. I went to school for communications. Obviously. I did not end up doing anything in communications other than
me either.
Other than that,
my degree is in communications as well.
Yeah, okay. So tell us a little bit about that transition.
So yes, the transition, it was honestly haphazard because I was in college at the time, and like I said, I didn't know, even though my major was mass communications, I didn't know exactly how I was going to break off into television and reach my ultimate goal. You know, when you're in college, you don't know that path. Not by yourself. You know, you depend on mentors, and you depend on advice from others to get you there. And so I'll never forget, at the first station that I worked at, one of the anchors came to a fast food restaurant that I was working at. At the time, I was working 2 jobs in college. I was working at Chase Bank and I was working at Sonic. And he lived near my other job, which is at Sonic. And so he came up, and he was one of my customers. And he talked to me about, you know, my goals, my aspirations. And I told him, I said, I actually want to do what you do. I want to be in TV. I'm majoring in mass communications, and I just don't know how. And so he told me, he said, just put in the application. He said, I'm going to give you the name and number of a guy, and you just call him, you put in your application. Did that one time, didn't hear anything. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think to pursue it. I didn't think to do anything different. I just said, you know, things will fall in place when they do. And so I saw him again a couple of months from that time, and he asked me that I put it in. I said, yes, I never heard anything back. And he said, oh, well, let me talk to him and see, and go ahead and apply again. I applied again, got a phone call. That's how I got my foot in the door. And when I got that phone call, I started out as a production assistant. And so basically, yes, I'm passing out scripts, running the studio camera, doing whatever else it is that they need me to do, running prompter. And so, you know, I started far away from where I wanted to be. But I'll never forget, my mom told me, she said, I talked to her about taking the job. And this just goes to show you the mind of college kids and younger people just in general. I said, Mom, do you know that I'm going to have to take a little pay cut to take this TV job? And y'all, I'm talking about like 75 cents. Okay. Like that kind of pay cut. I said, do you know that I'm going to have to take a pay cut to take this job? Do you think I should do this? She said, Kim, this is your career and this is what you want to do. She said, you're going to have to make this little sacrifice. And I thank her so much for her candidness, but also her kindness in not saying, girl, if you don't get your behind out of here with 75-cent difference in pay. But, you know, like I said, that just goes to show you the mindset of, you know, a younger person and not really knowing, you know, what sacrifice is and what it's going to take to do what you want to do. And so she told me that. I said, you know what, Ma? I said, you're right. I'm going to go ahead and take it. And I had to quit one of my 2 jobs to do that. I had to quit working at the bank. And so she told me to make the sacrifice, and I did. And to this day, I do not regret it at all.
So let me ask you this. What type of advice would you give young, aspiring communications girls like myself and Francis, and just people who majored in communications and never reached that goal or never ran into the right person? Because it's not necessarily what you know. Sometimes it's who you know. I can't imagine myself not being on news now. I mean, I run a company and I do that, but this was never my intention. I went to school for something totally different. I always thought that I'd be on the news or a personality, a TV personality. And I do that with Tony. Don't get me wrong. I'm super excited, Tony, for the opportunity. But, you know, people that just never land that job, what advice would you give them?
So here's my advice for them. One, you don't know when that dream is going to expire and if it's going to expire. So don't be discouraged, even if, you know, you're working and you're in your mid 30s or even your early 40s. Don't get discouraged if this is still what you want to do and you have not done it yet. Because I always like to remind people and tell people that, you know, television news, even though, you know, the work is hard, journalism is hard. Journalism does require your attention and your effort. What we do is a performance-based business, okay? Like entertainment, like television, like radio. Much of what you want to do will be based in your talent, in your ability to do it. And age doesn't have anything to do with that. Your missed opportunities don't have anything to do with that. TV is talent based and it's opportunity based. Sometimes it's just a matter of you being at the right place at the right time. That's all. And so, I share that bit of advice with people not to be discouraged. And part of that also comes from when I first started out in this business. I remember when I was behind the scenes and I was working behind the scenes and I really felt like I was off track or I was behind, so to speak. I had one coworker who knew that I wanted to report. She knew that I wanted to be a reporter. And at the time I was producing, and I remember she just kept asking me, Kim, when are you going to report? When are you going to get out there? My answer never changed. I told her, when God wants it to happen, it'll happen. I'm not in a rush. There's nothing that is pushing me really to get there in a set amount of time. And for some people, there is a push and a rush and an eagerness and hunger to get there. And that's not what I'm talking about, because I don't frown upon people for that either. I admire hunger and I admire, goals and achieving those in a timely manner. But I knew that throughout my life already and throughout the rest of my career, I was going to have to rely on God. And so I wasn't worried. She was more concerned with me getting to report than I was.
I tell young people all the time, your gift will make room for you. So
absolutely.
when your day arises, honey, it don't matter how many doors that's been closed. When he opens the door, it's a door that cannot be shut. So it doesn't even matter.
Absolutely. And so, that's my advice for younger people and for people who aren't in that position yet. Don't give up. And there's no rush. And there's no, don't get me wrong, there are some good paths to go down and some steps to prepare yourself to succeed in this business. But don't be stressed and, put out just because you're not there yet or you're not where you want to be. You can still get there.
I'm sorry, Francis.
I was going to say, Francis, your mic is messed up.
I have it on.
Is it still? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, very good. It'll be quick. So you've covered a lot of stories, lots and lots of stories. Can you tell us a little bit about your favorite, about one that really just pressed? Because I read up on you. I know some of your favorites, but you give me that one favorite that was just the one that you remember, or it could even be your first, whichever you want to elaborate on.
You know what? I remember, I'll touch on my first for a little bit and then get to some of my favorites. But I remember my first story that I went out on it was back home in Shreveport, Bossier, and the Bossier Parish School Board, they had just gotten some government money to build a new school and build an addition to a high school there. And I just remember that sticks out in my mind because I was so green and I halfway knew what I was doing, halfway didn't. And so it was a really good experience, like being out in the field, and something like that being my first story, something dealing with education in a high school that I was familiar with. So that will always stay in my mind. My favorite stories is, honestly, it's hard to narrow it down to just one. And I like to call the stories that I think of, I like to call them my most memorable stories. Not necessarily that they're my favorite because the subject matter, may not be good. It may not be a good thing, but they are the most memorable stories. And some of them, they're in different places. But in Little Rock, when I was there, I remember covering this big murder case that was like an hour and a half north of Little Rock. And it was pretty gruesome. But just to put it plainly and state the facts plainly, there was a man who was accused of killing 2 guys at his family's salvage yard. And so I remember just covering that story religiously for like a year and a half to 2 years that it went on, because I covered it from the time that it happened to the time where the guy was found guilty and sentenced. And so that really sticks out in my mind, that story. Also, I'll say here, the thing that sticks out in my mind, I don't do as many stories as I used to reporting, but the night when the TPC explosion happened, I'll never forget that, because that was huge. That was really huge. We were worried about the people who lived around the plant and how the explosion affected them. And I just remember being up in the wee hours of the morning, and, you know, I was getting ready to go to bed when it happened. And so I started seeing posts on social media, and then I turned it on our station, on our channel, and saw the coverage. And so we really, big stories like that that's when you really get the whole team working on every angle. And so that's another one that sticks out in my mind. But there have also been, you know, good interviews that stick out to me. Like when I interviewed the Arkansas governor, Louisiana's governor, when I interviewed the celebrity chef Robert Irvine, when I interviewed him, like some of those are the things that really stick out to me. So I don't know that I can pinpoint it down and narrow it down and say I have one particular favorite, because there's so many memorable things that stick in my head.
Do you feel like, I'm sorry, whose mic is up like that? Is that mine? Do you feel like all the sacrifices that you've made to get to this point, have they been worth it? Do you feel like where you are in your career and the sacrifices and the moving around and all of the things that have brought you to this point, has it been worth it? Or do you feel like you wish you would have done something else? You wish you would have gotten involved in something different?
No, not at all. I am so happy with my path and where I am, and even the steps that it takes to get me here. Because it's not, you know, my path wasn't all rainbows and sunshine. And so when I look back at it, I also thank God for those thunderstorms, because those really shaped me as a person and shaped me as a journalist. And without them, then I would be in a different space, and I would be learning the same lessons over and over and over again right now at this moment in my life. So I honestly wouldn't change a thing. I really wouldn't. And don't get me wrong, that's not to say that, you know, things couldn't have been better, or I could have gotten to, you know, this step a little bit quicker, because it could have happened. It could have. But would I be the same person? Would I have the outlook that I have now? I don't know that I would. So that's why I would say I wouldn't change a thing. It is good the way God gave it to me.
I got one more question about where you have arrived at. Being an African American female, have you felt any angst or different anxiety or pressure to perform being an African American female? I mean, now that we have our first African American Asian female vice president, I always want to hear from us, because I mean, we've been the backbone quietly inspiring society for a long time, and we never really speak about the journey in this particular skin. Oftentimes we shy away from this, and we just talk about career on a career basis, on a performance base. But have you felt the need to go above and beyond, and or anything surrounding being Black or being African American?
So, and I'm glad you asked that question because it's a great question that needs to be asked of more Black professionals. Because if you don't share your story and nobody hears your testimony, then people can think that they're alone and that they're by themselves in that experience. Even when it's well documented that Blacks and African Americans in the workplace, we do have different experiences. And so, for me to sit here and try to sell a story of, no, I've never noticed any difference in, how I was treated or how I was expected to perform, it wouldn't be fully honest. Not from my experience. There are times where, I have noticed that things go differently for me as a Black female in a lot of areas. And a lot of people may shy away from saying that and admitting to it, but it's the truth. And in journalism, we are truth tellers. And so for me to deny that fact would be irresponsible, honestly, professionally. So the things that I think we experience as Blacks in the workplace, and specifically Black females, I don't think that they're realized and that they're acknowledged by our counterparts who are from different cultural backgrounds. And part of that may be ignorance on their part, and part of that may be ignorance on our part in educating them on our experiences and speaking up when we need to, and speaking up when necessary. Because when you're, like I said, when you're experiencing something and you don't say anything, then that makes people think that something may not exist,
Or it's not real.
Exactly.
Or it's not warranted, or it's not validated. I remember, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I was watching the movie, and the ladies had a lawsuit against, I forget the name of the movie, but it was a bunch of ladies that had to perform sexual favors and acts and different things to become journalists and to be, I forget the name of this movie, but it was a really big deal.
I want to see that movie, LaDonna.
No, I'm telling you, it was a really big movie, and it was involving Megyn Kelly and really big people. They had a back elevator and a channel that these women had to go through, and they had to look a certain way, and they had to weigh a certain thing, and they had to dress a certain way, and they had to perform to become journalists. And it was really important. And so when I figured that we were going to have you on, I kind of wanted to address some of these things. And I know you're not, in Washington, D.C. or in these other different places, but I was just wondering, as women in the workplace dealing with journalism, this was like a big movie, like Siskel and Ebert and this and that, and it was huge, about women in the workplace. And I forget the lady's name, but she won the lawsuit. And the man, it was about, I don't want to say anybody's name because I don't want to say the wrong thing, but if you could, it's a movie about journalism and women in journalism and the things that they had to endure to get jobs and to be, it was huge. And I'm talking about recently, like maybe 2019. And I remember watching the movie, and I watched it twice, because I couldn't believe that these things were happening to women in journalism, and they had to do all of these things. They had to perform in order to be viewed as equal. And I just, it's been weighing on me.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I'll say this, unfortunately, we know that, that type of situation, it's not only existing in one particular industry. And to me, that's why I try to stress the point so much, is for people to share their experiences truthfully and share their experiences with a broad range of people. Because you know, just as those women who were at Fox News, Gretchen Carlson, specifically, she really spearheaded a movement at that particular network where other women felt comfortable coming forward, and other women felt comfortable sharing their stories. And so to me, that really speaks to not only the fact that women in journalism can sometimes experience those situations, but so can other women. Because you have to think about, you know, if it's happening to these women, you know that they're not the only ones. You know that there may be others who share their experiences who just aren't speaking up. And not only in journalism and entertainment and television news, but in other industries as well. And that's why I say, again, I harp on it. It's important for us to share our experiences and what we go through as women, and especially as women of color.
I found the name of it. It's called Bombshell, Francis. Just so you know, it's called Bombshell. Came out in 2019. Bombshell.
I heard of the movie. I just, I didn't know that was the premise of it, though.
Baby, when I tell you, you're gonna want to watch it twice. It was about journalism and women and real people. It's loosely based on a true story. She sued them and won.
Well, you know that's happening right now. That's happening right now with like what's the guy in Hollywood that was accused of sexual harassment and assault, and even if
Weinstein
right, that's going on right now.
Others.
And then there's others with Fox, and it's so much going on. But that's in the entertainment business. And by if you don't how you can say this, Kim, if you don't tell your story, that those that's behind you would never know, and it's very important that you express that.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of Tony with this Knowledge is Power podcast, because he never ceases to amaze me with the guests. I'm like, you having who on tonight? And because between me and him, we find but I mean, he covers, we try to cover everything that may pertain to this community. And it's a podcast to enlighten and enrich, and all knowledge is power. Young girls that may be aspiring, African American girls who want to be on the news, who want to be truth tellers, and because journalism is a hard job.
Yes,
let me tell you, the people that work for CNN, they have my sympathy, because they have been responsible for reporting facts. Donald Trump been lying 20,000 times, honey. They have had to bring truth up to the forefront when nobody else will do it. Sometimes that job can be hard to actually express what's real and what's happening in the community.
No fake.
They have to address riots. They have to address Antifa. Who's telling the truth? Are there white supremacists creating the problem? Or the black people creating the problem? Or the police creating the problem? And being able to balance that information in a way that's unbiased, that's really just preventing the facts and allowing the people to make their own decision. Like, I admire the job. I really feel like, while this is something I wanted to do, I don't really know if I have that unbiased part of me, because I'm subject to get on the news and say, look, this is what it is. This is where I'm at with it.
More of a commentary type style. Yes, I understand.
Well, I have one last question for you, Kimberly, before we let you go. In the world, there's so much going on. There's so many stories and crazy, chaotic situations. Is there any particular story that has happened that you wish you would have been able to be a part of? I watch a lot of IDTV, and when I tell you it's some crazy stuff out there, I'm like, oh my God, if I could have been a fly on the wall just during that time. So my favorite, and this is crazy, is like the mass murderers. Like when they go out and investigate, and they're pulling all of these different people in. I would have loved to be able to pull apart whatever was going on at that time and put that story out there. So, is there any particular thing just over time that has happened that you would have loved to be a part of?
Ooh, overtime. Okay, that opens it up quite a bit. Because look, I was going to say, this calendar year, it has been a monster for
Yes.
us, all of
Yeah,
us, not
all
just
of
journalists, but all of us with the pandemic, with the election. And so if I were to say something in recent history, I would definitely like to report on the shift and the change politically that this country is experiencing. And I would like, even though I already do it, working at Fox 4 News and being an anchor on the desk, to be out in the midst of protests and demonstrations, and to hear from Americans in different parts of the country, I would love to experience that and do that. If there was something that, I would have to say in recent history that I would love to focus on and report on, it would be that, because people are really sounding off and letting their voices be heard, whether it is through a protest or demonstration, whether it is through the power of their vote, whether it is through being involved in city council meetings. People are very, very, very engaged this year. I can say that from what I've been seeing and from what I've been reading and the research that I've been doing. People are very engaged. And so if I can be out in the midst of that, that would be wonderful for me. I would really love that as a journalist. But if we open it up wider to over time, I would honestly have to say, if I could really pin down like an entertainer, a singer, songwriter, like in the 70s or 80s, because that's another time where, our country was experiencing vast changes. And to me, part of a country changing and capturing that, we capture it with music and
right.
entertainment. We do. It reflects what we're experiencing at that time. And so if I could go back and like be an entertainment journalist and talk to some of those singers, songwriters, and performers and get what they're
Who would it
experiencing,
be?
they
Who would it
too,
be?
it would be a
James
myriad of
Brown.
people. He's one, James Brown, Elvis Presley, the OJs, Sam Cooke, Whitney Houston,
I've
Madonna.
thought about this a lot.
Yes, I have, because you think about, look, as a journalist, you think about, what are some things I would love to dig into? What are some things that I would just
Girl,
love
add
to
Prince to
report
that
on?
list, girl. Add Prince.
Yes, I want to know what those people were experiencing at the high peaks in their careers, whether they be white, whether they be black, because they're both going to have different experiences based on their skin color.
For
That's,
sure.
that's just that's the real part of it. And so I would want to know what their experience is. And I would want to be able to tell that and share that with other people.
Let me tell you, 2020, you have hit the nail on the head with that. Even with myself, I found myself on the news more times from January to November than I've been on. I mean, and I have a working relationship with Angel San Juan and different people and whatever. I'm in the NAACP, different groups, whatever, and I speak. But baby, I've been on the news for all kinds of stuff, okay, lately. And I'm like, 2020 have like just taken it off the rails of what you normally, I might be on the news about the Taste of the Triangle or Game of Thrones and the trivia night. But baby, these conversations have been about everything.
Oh yes. Oh yes. And I feel like, we still have some more of 2020 left, so we can only imagine what it's going to reveal. And then when 2021 rolls around, we don't know what that's going to bring. But it's best that we be prepared for it. And, I am a follower of Christ and a believer, so I tell people all the time, you need to pray. You have to pray. You
You're
have
right.
to pray.
You're absolutely right. I agree with that.
You better pray during these times.
Yeah.
That's right. That's
Better
Well,
right.
pray.
I was listening to you guys. I might as well just sit back on this show because those guys, they did all the work for me, which is good. I appreciate it, But
Well, you already knew that tonight was going to be definitely about the power of the ladies.
yes, you guys have really filled in the gap. Hey, I was listening to you, and I listened to my whole co-hosts, and they have all four of us has major in communication.
And that is
Right, that's just
amazing.
amazing.
I didn't realize that. That is
All four of
amazing.
us. I'm just listening to you guys, and we're all, But here's something I want to ask you, and because when I was in radio in the early '70s, late '60s, early '70s, and of course it was a soul radio station. So we was in a small market. Beaumont is a small market. I was able to go and work at other stations in other cities, larger cities, but return back in a small market. Have you? It's a difference when you get to the larger market. I'm pretty sure that's your goals to get to a major market city, aren't you?
So it's funny that you
Don't
say
try to
that.
leave us, girl.
And look, and I'm not, that's what I was going to tell him. I'm not looking to, it's, it would be a believable story, for a lot of people that is their goal. And there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. But for me personally, when I think about journalism in my career and I think about Southeast Texas and Beaumont, I'm not a big city girl. That's one. I'm a family girl. That's two. My family is 3.5 hours away.
Yes.
And so that takes the cake. And three, I'm doing what I love to do.
That's it.
And I enjoy it. I enjoy it day in and day out. And so when you consider those things, like I'm very different in my ambitions. Being here in Southeast Texas, it feels like home for me. And it is okay with me. I don't have any plans to leave anytime soon. Let me tell you that.
Let me say this. See, Tony's trying to measure success in terms of somebody else's dream and vision. And sometimes success is not measured in that. She's doing what she loves to do, not far from the people that she loves. And when you're doing what you love to do, you can do that anywhere. And that's your measure of success. That I don't have to stress myself out to be who I want to be. That's success right there.
Yeah.
That's success. I'm who I want to be, the best version of me, and I'm improving the community and people. She could probably go to the schools and reach out to young girls and, give back.
That's so much.
And all of those things without being stressed out about deadlines and viewership and advertising and all of these things.
It still has a lot to do with it.
I'm not saying she doesn't have that, but she can probably get that here because we got your back, baby. So.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I do. Because
when we get together, what Tony don't realize is every lady that I meet on this show, you can believe you just made a friend. I represent for the women. I'm on the women's team.
Thank you. I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. I do.
The ratings has a lot to do, with your position, but it's
sure
you're comfortable here, and that's the main thing. You're comfortable. I've had huge opportunities, and I fulfill those. The Lord, I always say, God fulfilled my dreams. When I was 10, I wanted to be in radio. At 12, I was on radio. That's one thing he's done. He's a way maker.
Yes.
So when I was 20, I want to sell cars. So he made that way. At 25, I want to be an automotive dealer. I want to own a dealership or several. He made that way. So what I'm saying is that it's not about us. It's about him. And if we believe and trust him, he will make a way out of no way.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, right. So if you're dreaming, those that are watching and is dreaming and thinking and want to go into different fields, put him first. And
Amen.
all the other things are added unto you. Kimberly, I met Kimberly on television. Well, no, Kimberly was the moderator when I was running for city council.
Yes.
You're right. And I did not know Kim, and she was so precise and so professional, and she knew what she was talking about. She knew how to ask the questions, and she
Thank
she
you.
had our timing together. And I told her after the debate, I said, "Girl, you got your shit together."
We better put her down on the list.
Yes.
Yeah,
Days in the future.
and she's oh, by the way, she follows me on my Facebook. She's one of my friends, so you're mad.
Yes.
Listen,
And you cracked me up.
so, and then we was talking as we were getting ready to put this podcast together, and she said, "Well, question, how long am I going to talk?" I said, "We're gonna be on just 60 minutes." It's just me. I said, "Oh yeah, you're gonna be fine because it's gonna be relaxed. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna chatter. We're gonna talk, and we're gonna have fun." But Kim, you have been a great guest. See how quick the time passed.
It flew. It really did, Tony. You
Baby,
were
between
right.
me and Francis, girl, we got you. You don't know. We gonna question you down. You may as well call us some interrogators. Y'all need to get us on Fox 4. We can take it up a notch.
Y'all were great interviewers. You really were. You were great interviewers. The questions were wonderful and pointed. I love it.
Right. And we're actually pretty much booked until the first of the year, and I kept a couple of opening dates, and so that we can fill in because the show is actually on Sundays and Tuesdays, but lately I've been just doing Sundays, so it's we still have Tuesdays open to bring other guests in, and if we have to bring one quickly, early, fast. I'm talking like that old president of y'all. But anyway, so. We're doing this every week, and so we thank you so much because you have been just great. And I was texting the girls back on the back screen chat on our private chat and said how I enjoyed this interview. It's doing great. They said I just told them, hey, not only you guys are doing awesome, but our guest is great as well,
Oh, thank you.
Fulfill the show and make it right because Knowledge is Power podcast is a God thing, and when I started this, it was about him, and it's about communication. It's about educating the community in Southeast Texas. Now we have a platform that we can get out there and showcase and have everybody involved, and they want to know something. They want to know about you. Now they got a chance to go on Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn, and they can know all about Kimberly Rusley with Kbtv Fox 4 News.
Well, thank you. Yes, thank you for having me because it was a pleasure. It really, really was. It was a pleasure to talk to you all and share some of my experiences and my thoughts. And I will not be a stranger. Anytime you want me back, I'll be here.
Oh, I already put you down for another show.
All right, look at you.
Well, I like to bring on all the formal and current African American newscaster on here, and hopefully we'll put that show together. So, folks, are you watching? We had a great talk. If you watch the show and you're gonna watch it later, please tag your friends or share it on Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn or Twitter. We're on there, so you can go and watch the show. Next Sunday, we got special guests also. Did you guys know that we have 4 African American automobile dealers in Southeast Texas?
I know one.
I did not know that.
You did not know that? Okay, well, we're gonna have them on next Sunday here on Knowledge is Power. We're gonna have Dean Bernard of Nissan of Silsbee, David Turner of JK Subaru, and his dad Robert Turner of JK Chevrolet and Turner Chevrolet at Crosby. Also in Dale Early of Hyundai of Silsbee. Okay. So we're gonna have those guys on next Sunday. So we're gonna have an hour of talk of car dealing.
Give away a car?
I hope so.
Don't start that. Don't start that. We not Oprah, girl. This ain't
You get
Oprah.
one. You
Give me the
get one.
car.
You get one.
This ain't Oprah, okay? We're gonna promote them, and you can go and buy you a car, maybe
Funny.
with a little fraction of the price and stuff like that. But you know,
And of course, I'm a former automobile dealer, so and I'm still in the business. So it's going to be a great show. Kimberly, thank you so much for accepting my invitation, and
You
I
are
really, really
welcome.
enjoyed. It was great. A time went on by fast. We just did that thing.
It did. It
Really
really
good, girl.
did.
I'm gonna have to get those girls a T-shirt.
you know, I've been waiting for my shirt for about 6 months. I'm gonna break up with you. That's what's gonna happen. I'm breaking up with you.
I got the size now. We're gonna roll with the show. Any last words you'd like to say, Kim, before we close?
Sure. I do want to encourage people during this time, this tough time, especially whether the pandemic has got you down, whether politics, whether that's leaving you feeling down as well. I am a firm believer in just what your podcast is titled, Knowledge is Power. It really is. Educate yourself on what's going on around you. Familiarize yourself with accountable sources who can give you dependable and truthful information, because that shapes the world around you, and that shapes your thoughts, and the thoughts of others who are around you. So I just want to encourage everyone during this time to get that knowledge, stay educated, stay on the up and up, and also if you are a believer, say your prayers. Not only every day, but especially during this time, because we all need them.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. Kimberly Russell, everybody from Fox 4 News. You find her on Mondays through Fridays at 5:30, right?
Yes, 5:30 and 9 o'clock. And I can't believe that I forgot to mention to follow me on Twitter and Facebook.
All right. So
Do that.
Oh,
But
yeah,
see, I keep God first. See?
That's it. Yeah, I just still had that touch. Still got that touch. Francis, you got anything you want to say before we get out of here?
No, thanks so much for having me. This has been a blast, very informative, and you are great, Kimberly. So keep doing, keep reporting, keep serving our community, because what you do is truly service to our community as well. So we appreciate your time today.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
The Donna.
You know what? This show would never be the same without me. So let's be clear. I'm super excited to be here. I'm super excited about our guest, Kimberly. She inspires us. She's one of my quiet inspirations and my girls that I go to. I am super excited about Fox. I'm super excited about Tony for bringing her on today. I hope everybody under the sound of my voice has a blessed week for the upcoming week. God bless you. God keep you. And God speed, honey. Go get them. Don't get in the box. Get out the box. And if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So be ready. Okay? That's all I want to say on the podcast tonight. I am proud of you, Tony. I'm proud for you giving me this opportunity, because I can talk. And guess what? I paid $87,000 in student loans to be able to talk. So guess what? I should be able to talk. Here we go.
That's it, baby. That's it, baby.
Okay, Tony, take us out.
Francis and LaDonna, I'll see you guys next Sunday. God bless. I love you guys. And once again, for the last time, Kimberly, you was awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay?
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Good night.